So I want to talk about Age of X-Men Alpha, but I haven't had a chance to read all of X-Men Disassembled, so by the time we finish up the intro, I'll be finished. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an iRate Review, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you need to go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about right now is Age of X-Men. Age of X-Man. It's so easy to stumble over that name. Age of X-Man Alpha #1. So this is the story of the utopian society that Nathan Summers has really come up with, or whoever's really behind this. But once I kind of go through the X-Men Disassembled storyline, this is going to become a lot easier to decipher. But in reality, this is setting up a bunch of different miniseries, and that's its real intentions. So let's dive in and see what we can expect from the other properties that Marvel's going to be introducing next month. Age of X-Man Alpha is like a lot of other very Alpha-style books, where it's just giving you a prelude, a precursor. It's giving you a tease as to what you can expect when it comes to these new storylines. And in this case, it's launching a series of 5 or 6 different X-Man era age books happening inside the Age of X-Man, while Cyclops and Wolverine are hunting down the various X-Men, trying to solve a world where after X-Man inside the X-Men Disassembled storyline just basically evaporated everybody, or he didn't necessarily evaporate everybody, but he just bamfed everybody out of existence as the final conclusion. And this is the result. And what we see is what can only be described as a relatively perfect society. Utopian even, where X-Man and a whole host of other characters, they're out there policing and trying to help all these different young mutants. Everybody's a mutant now, and through this team they can find mutants that need special care, acceptance, and then provide them the resources that they need. It seems like a paradise, and though there is no kind of violence, there's nothing really to put you off. It feels all too perfect, and when Glob stares at you in the eye, you know that he might understand something. And in Next Gen #1, that's where we're going to get the story. And that's really the theme of everything moving through X-Man Alpha, or Age of X-Man Alpha. Everything is just a 6 to 12 page setup storyline that is going to give us you gotta read this book in order to get more. And I'm not saying that this isn't a good title, because as we move through the second storyline where we see a illicit romance between Jean Grey and Bishop, it's just one of those things where this police squad comes, tears them down, and sees these memories. We've got another thing with Nightcrawler going on where he's a movie star and he's being controlled by the Stepford Cuckoos as his agents or managers or whatever's going on. So the Amazing Nightcrawler #1 is going to have more stories about Mr. Kurt Wagner. When we're talking about the Extremists, which is the group that has come to capture Bishop, that's another book that's going to have its own little story being told. Prisoner X is going to be the story of Bishop and the other prisoners, the people that don't fit into this utopian society, that rebel against the controls of the X-Man. That is going to be their book. And there's so many things that are going to be going on that we need to see this through, because Apocalypse has his own storybook as well. So between these 5, 6 books, we're going to get the conclusions to the individual story threads that are kicked off inside this X-Man Alpha book. And while the art is good, you know, it's very clean, it's very palatable, there's not really a whole lot of contrast or shading in these characters. It's really meant to be a very stark and clean style. It's one of those things where it still just feels a little bit weird because the weight of a lot of these characters, the lines are very similar, so everything feels very flat. There's very minimal depth. It's not a bad thing, but it harkens back to kind of a classic storytelling style that fits in with the history of the X-Men more than it does the future. As for the writing, you can tell that there is a passion about this story that they're trying to tell. They're trying to put every bit of emphasis and engage you into the books that are going to be coming out. But is it enough? When we take a look at what's going to be coming from Age of X-Man and the other issues that are going to be coming out, these 5-part miniseries, do I really need to pick up all of these books to get the storyline that I want? And am I so engrossed with the storyline of X-Man from the first 10 issues of Uncanny X-Men that I'm going to have to do such a thing? If it's key to the storyline of Cyclops and Wolverine trying to reunite the X-Men, I might revisit it at some point in time, but I wasn't overwhelmed and, you know, really overcome with the story that was being told in Uncanny X-Men to begin with, so I don't necessarily see myself picking these up. Not to discount this book as something that is frivolous or unnecessary. It's one of those things where if the storyline spoke to you, if you were really engaged with the Uncanny X-Men story from 1 to 10, this is going to be where you find a lot more information about the world that X-Man wanted to create. If you're not, then just pick up Uncanny X-Men number 11. We're going to get a lot more storyline. It's going to be Cyclops. It's going to be Wolverine. Two people that have been gone from the Marvel Universe that are going to take center stage as they hunt down the rest of the X-Men and try to bring back their friends. And that's the storyline that I kind of want to read. But I want to know what you guys think. Is Age of X-Man the next big thing, or something that you feel like you're going to pass on? But as always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.